Travis Kelce, his readiness for Sunday, based on what you're hearing on this Friday, is what?
He's practiced the last couple of days, albeit in limited fashion. Initially, when he first had the injury, the thinking was, once they ruled out it being something worse, this was a 1 to 2 week injury. So it didn't make a lot of sense right after, he'd had the knee drained and those things to push him back out there. He wasn't ready. But now, after 10 days from the Thursday night opener, I think he's got a decent shot. It's a matter of he's got to feel comfortable. The team's got to feel comfortable. This is not going to be something that's a long-term injury for Travis Kelce. So if not this week, which I would lean toward right now, it is. We'll see what the injury report says. Then I would anticipate week 3. That's when you see Travis Kelce back out there.
Okay, and then let's talk about the team that the Chiefs beat in the Super Bowl, the Eagles, who we saw on Thursday night improve to 2-0. And A.J. Brown, we're already, about 7 quarters into the season, and he and Hurts and the Eagles seem to have a heated conversation, and these things happen on sidelines. That's where Nick Sirianni said it's going to be kept in terms of what was going on. What is your interpretation of what have you heard was actually going on, and how might this inform how the Eagles move forward?
We'll see. I think some of those details will come out in the coming days here. I would say what I thought was interesting coming out of that game last night was how Brian Flores defended the Eagles. And I'm not saying that that's the blueprint, because they still gave up a bunch of points, albeit in part because the Vikings kept giving the football away. But, you saw them in a lot of occasions drop out, rush 3, drop 8, and just make them keep taking those short 4 or 5 yard passes, which to Jalen Hurts' credit, he did repeatedly in the game. He got one opportunity. Devonta Smith takes the top off the defense. It's a big play. But other than that, the Vikings were just saying, we're going to drop those linebackers out. We're going to keep Jalen Hurts from running all over us here. We're going to give you all those underneath passes, but we're not going to let you go down the field. Well, for A.J. Brown, a big part of what he does is in that intermediate deep passing game. When you're being defended like that, it makes things a little bit harder. A.J. Brown came from a place in Tennessee where he began his career, where there weren't a lot of opportunities because he didn't throw the football as much. I would think that some of that evens out. A lot of it is based upon how defenses are playing them. And anytime you've got a quarterback who I know that Jalen finished well in 2021, but when they burst onto the scene and have that MVP caliber run like he did last season, defenses spend the whole offseason going, okay, what are we going to do differently here? And you got a little taste of one of the potential approaches. Not that anybody still has an answer for, the middle of that line, just pushing forward and then getting 2 yards on every 3rd and 1.
So before I let you go, Tom, I'm going to do this every Friday. Open your notebook. What do you want to talk about? What should be talked about? Give me your Tom Pelissero nugget here or concept that you're seeing out there on the gridiron, or what people are talking about. What do you got for me on that front?
I would say one thing is a lot of the conversation coming out of the Sunday night football game was about how the Giants were that bad. And I would counter that. Yes, they were bad. Let's not get that twisted. But I think that the part that gets lost a little bit is this Dallas Cowboys team might be really good. And if you talk to Mike McCarthy, he'll tell you this might be the most talented roster that he's had, certainly since the nearly undefeated days in Green Bay, which was over a decade ago. They've got everything. They've got a really good defense. You saw, again, in limited fashion, you're going to get a little more of a taste of this when they face some different defenses. But Dak Prescott, that passing game's different. It's all about, establishing rhythm now. You had more downfield passing with Kellen Moore, and you're still going to have that element. But if you watch a lot of what Dak was doing, it was 3 steps and get the football out. It was get the ball in space to the playmakers. It was find a way to get the ball to the perimeter. Not everything has to be that big play. They want to be cautious of how much they're riding Tony Pollard, but you're seeing a different Dak Prescott. Let's get him out of the rain. Let's put him against a really good defense. All the focus could be on Zach Wilson, but let's see how Dak and that Cowboys offense react when they're going up against the Jets defense this weekend. Another thing I just bring up, partly because I'm going to be at the game, is the Lions going back to Detroit. They're hosting the Seahawks this week. There is never, in my 20 years covering the NFL and longer than that, been any level of hype surrounding the Detroit Lions. And I think that they've won so many games in a row at this point, going back to the end of last season. And there's so much positivity. I think that everybody within the league is kind of waiting to see at some point, do they crack a little bit? Does Jared Goff, he hasn't thrown an interception in like 400 attempts or something like that. At some point, does Jared Goff start to show, a little bit of weakness here? But you look at them right now, they got a really good offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson. They haven't even unleashed Jahmyr Gibbs yet. You might see a little bit more of that this week. And Aaron Glenn, since they kind of made those philosophical shifts in how they were playing defense at the bye last season, they've been really good on that side of the ball. Is this an actual contender? I think that, a lot of people look at the NFC and say, outside of the Eagles and the 49ers, maybe it's pretty wide open at this point. Are the Lions that caliber? They just went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. Let's just see for the first time in forever how they handle having hype and success, because that's a whole other challenge than just being the lowly Lions and everybody's happy if you win a couple of games.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.